All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, I want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. A few questions came in that, interesting questions. One is that someone shared with them that somebody knows the New Testament and can recite the whole thing, right? I assume that means recite the whole thing, verbatim, meaning, they know it by heart, whatever, something, this person's a Messiah. Okay. I don't know why knowing, the New Testament by heart makes someone the Messiah. Obviously there are certain things the Messiah is supposed to do. It's got to be from it's got to have lineage from, King David. He's got to build the temple, has to bring in the exiles, right? Bring in, Jews from outside of Israel. You can't die in the process. That would knock out JC and other people who may think someone else is coming back to be the Messiah. So certain criteria to be the Messiah, just because even if someone, let's say, knew the entire Talmud backwards and forwards, knew all the commentaries, knew Kabbalah, knew everything, does that mean they're the Messiah? It's criteria, right? There's definitely criteria. So there are things, you're obligated to do. And if you don't do them, then how can you be the Messiah? Right. So that was one question. And there's another question that I mentioned last week. There was a case where a person got divorced, and the father had made a statement and said that his daughter, he made a match for his daughter and sort of betrothed his daughter to somebody, but he wouldn't reveal who the witnesses were. In fact, he did this, let's say better. He did this in front of two witnesses, right? Now, the problem is we don't know who the witnesses are, right? So the father makes a statement, and we're not assuming he's lying over here. The father makes a statement, and the statement is, I betrothed my daughter to somebody, and I did it in front of two witnesses. Now, the problem is his daughter can never marry anybody. Why can't she marry anyone? Because you don't know who the witnesses are. You have no idea who the witnesses are. So if you don't know who the witnesses are, what do you do? So my idea was, right, so this, my Rebbe was telling me this story once. So he said, there's nothing I can do. He said, well, you don't know who these witnesses are. So whoever she may want to marry could be, he forbade her, right, in front of witnesses. He betrothed her, so to speak, in front of two witnesses. So she can never marry anybody. So I had an idea. I said, take this guy and beat him to a pulp until he admits who the witnesses are. Right? By a get, you can do that. By a bill of divorce, technically, according to the Rambam, you could do that. That's not called the forced bill of divorce. Forced bill of divorce, you're not allowed to do. Right? You're not allowed to do. Right? The Rambam says you are, meaning that, I shouldn't say the Rambam holds you allowed to give a forced bill of divorce, but the Rambam holds you allowed to beat this recalcitrant husband, to like an inch of his life. That you're allowed to do. So why isn't that forcing him? So the Rambam says the reason is because he really wants to do the right thing, but his evil inclination's killing him, right? So evil inclination's killing him. So according to the Rambam, I can beat him. We can beat him to an inch of his life. Now, what's the problem in this case? Why can't you do that? Because if you do it, maybe say, okay, I'll tell you. I'll say who it is, and what happens? He's lying. You don't know if he's telling the truth. Right? That's not going to help. That's not going to help. So in this case, the person's stuck. So what was the question? The question was that a father wouldn't divulge the names of two witnesses for his daughter, right? It's about getting married, not divorce, but okay. So I thought the rabbi did the wedding would also know the witness would work. There was no wedding, right? Let's make the case clear. The husband says, I betrothed my daughter to somebody. Doesn't say who the person is. And he says, I did it in front of two witnesses. We don't know who the witnesses are. There wasn't a wedding. There was no ceremony. There was nothing. He made a statement, right? And we're not assuming he's lying over it. He did it despite his wife, despite his daughter. Clear. Did it out of anger. Clear. Right? He's allowed to do it. Technically. I mean, not a good thing to do in such a way in this case. Right? But he made a statement. We're assuming he's not lying over here. We have no reason to assume he's lying. But he's not telling you who the witnesses are. So who knows who the witnesses are? Nobody. Nobody knows. There's no wedding. So the rabbi, the wedding's not going to know. Nobody knows. No wedding. Right? He made a statement. That was the case. The statement was that I betrothed my daughter to somebody. I did it in front of two witnesses. Well, you want to tell me who the witnesses are? Nope. So basically, he messed up his daughter for life. She can never marry. He abused the system. She can never marry. Right? So, Rabbi said there's only one thing I could do with her. I can just sit there and cry with her. That's all I could do. There was nothing else to do. There's no way out. This guy messed up his daughter. Despite her. There's no way around it. There's no halachic way around it. Right? That was the case. Yeah, that was that question. Another question came in that's interesting question. And that is an unmarried woman is living in Dubai. Okay? This woman is a Reform American Jew. I don't know if it matters. She's Reformed, conservative, progressive. I don't know. It doesn't matter, but okay. She has a son out of wedlock with an Arab. Now, that doesn't matter either, right? She has a child with a non-Jew, right? It doesn't matter. Christian, Arab, right? Irrelevant, right? But okay, she has a child. She has a child out of wedlock. Now, the law of the land affirms the father's right to custody, right? You don't go after the mother here, let's say. So you go after the law of the land. Father has rights to custody. Doesn't allow the child to leave the country. They force the child to be a Muslim. Now, the mother abandons the child, moves back to America. Okay, right? So the case is this Jewish woman has a child with a Muslim, with a Muslim Arab, and he has custody. So the child is Jewish, technically, right? Technically, the child is Jewish. Right? There are other issues, but the child is Jewish. Now, she flees the country, which is a good thing over here, and he wants to force her to be a Muslim. Right? He forces her to be a Muslim. Now, child becomes an adult, finds his mother in America. Okay, so the child's Jewish, but was forced to be a Muslim. All right, now, child finds the mother in America. Does the mother have an obligation to bring him to Judaism? Well, first of all, the mother has to tell the child, no question, the child's Jewish. Right? The mother's Jewish, child's Jewish. Right? 100%. So does she have an obligation to bring him back to Judaism? Why not? Why wouldn't she? Right? I mean, she can try, no guarantee. Totally no guarantee. Right? That, they're going to want to come to Judaism. Right? But the child, in fact, is Jewish. So what would happen? I'll just throw another question out. What would happen if the child never found out the mother was Jewish? Let's say the child never had contact with the mother. Right? So let's say, a child grew up not knowing that they were Jewish at all. Never found out even. So that's the classic case of what we call a tinok shenishba, someone who was brought up among the non-Jews, never knew they were Jewish. Right? They didn't know they were Jewish. There are different levels of this. I don't want to go into it, spoken about it a lot. Right? But this person never knew they were Jewish. Are they going to be liable? After they die, God's going to judge them. Are they going to be liable because they didn't keep any Torah mitzvahs? What's the answer? No. Right? Why are they not going to be liable in such a case? Because they never knew. They had no reason to know. If it could be, they could have found out, or maybe they knew, or they had suspicion, they didn't check into it. So maybe there's some level of culpability. Maybe there's some level of guilt over here. And they'll pay a certain price. But if they never knew, then how can they be liable? Right? There is an opinion that as long as somebody knows they're a Jew, as long as they know they're a Jew, that's it. They don't have a status of a tinok shenishba, someone who's been, like they've been taken captive by the non-Jews. Right? That's the most stringent opinion. Right? The fact that all they have to do is know that they're a Jew. So what? So if they know they're a Jew, right? Far from me to, disagree over here, right? But if the person knows they're a Jew, but they don't know anything else, they know zero, how can that take them out of the status? You'll tell me they could have found out more about Judaism, okay? They could have learned about it, okay? But just because they know they're a Jew, right? It's an unbelievable idea, right? They know that they're a Jew, but they don't know anything else. They know nothing else about Judaism. That's very hard to say. Right? The question is, somebody who never knew they were Jewish, and they had no reason to know, not something they could have found out, they didn't want to find out, whatever the case is, there's no reason for them to know. And God didn't reveal it to them in this world. God wanted the soul to get totally lost, not have any connection to Judaism whatsoever. Why? I can't answer. Right? Don't know. But that's what God wanted. So that's what God wanted, could be. It's payback. Payback for what the soul had to go through. In another incarnation. It's payback. Right? So if that's the case, how could God punish it? That's punishment enough. The fact that this person didn't keep Shabbos, didn't keep kosher, didn't make blessings, didn't keep any of the holidays, how in the world can they be liable? How can they be liable? You tell me, maybe they'll be liable for, things like doing things by accident. They didn't know, right? You're still liable, if you don't know, but it's not as serious as, an absolute rebellion against God and all that. That's a whole different issue. Here, they don't know what they're doing. So they don't know what they're doing. They never heard of Judaism. They never even would have thought they were Jewish. How can they be liable? Right? How can they be seriously liable? They will be liable for things, like they did something by accident, not on purpose. Be liable for that. We're not going to be liable much more than that. Right? But, in this category, though, there's a lot of degrees over here. what level? What does it mean someone knows or someone doesn't know? If someone, has, let's say, religious kids, they're not religious. Parents aren't religious. They don't want to look into, Judaism. They what's the word? They tolerate it. They'll eat Shabbos by them, festivals by them, let's say, but they're never going to be religious. Isn't that a rebellion? It's a rebellion. It's not like they know anything. They don't know very much. They could, but they don't know very much. So what's the liability? So the liability over here is, it's a rebellion, but it's not a rebellion because, they're not interested in God and this and that, and they have proof and whatever. Not that type of liability, not that type of knowledge. Right? Not that type of rebellion. So why are they doing what they're doing? Why aren't they keeping Torah mitzvahs? One very simple reason. Taiva, desire. That's it. They're only doing things based on desire. You tell me it's a rebellion. They should be really, obligated for many things, in many ways. Yeah, true. Very true. What's the problem? Why are they doing things? They're doing things because of desire. They're doing whatever the heart tells them to do. It's a rebellion, but not in the sense where they know enough and they're doing it just to get back at God. They're not doing it for that reason. They're not saying, my grandparent suffered and this and that, and and they rebel. Even that would be the case. If someone hasn't learned or never learned, it's a rebellion, but it's, they're not doing it based on knowledge. Doing it based on what their heart says. Person does something based on what their heart says doesn't mean they're not liable. They're definitely liable, but it's not the same as they're doing to say, God, I understand all the laws of Shabbos. I'm going to light this match on Shabbos, God forbid. That's how angry they are. That's different. If you know. A lot of these people don't know. But it doesn't mean they're off the hook. They desecrate Shabbos in public, death penalty. Right? They get spiritually cut off. They're homosexuals, death penalty. Right? Pretty serious. The ignorance isn't bliss over here. Just because they don't know or they have a different agenda, quote unquote, doesn't mean they're not liable. Totally doesn't mean they're not liable. It's a totally different issue. Totally different issue. Someone asked, what's Judaism's stance on homosexuality? Forbidden. Any other questions? That was easy, right? Torah says, Leviticus chapter 18, forbidden. Bestiality, forbidden. Lesbianism, forbidden. Might be a rabbinic prohibition, not necessarily a Torah prohibition. We learn it out from not going in the ways of the Egyptians, right? They were totally steeped in immorality. That was one of the things they did, right? So Torah holds, no question about it, homosexuality forbidden. Totally forbidden. Torah prohibition, death penalty. If there'd be a temple in Jerusalem and there would be a Sanhedrin, a Jewish Supreme Court, death penalty. Someone will say, but, maybe scientifically or medically, person has a certain gene, okay? We got a lot of bad genes. Anger genes. Not wanting to give charity genes. Lazy genes. So that just means the person has more of a predisposition. Doesn't mean you should act on it. But we have that many bad character traits. Right? This is just a weird desire. I mean, the world today will try and convince you it's normal and try and teach a 6, 7-year-old why they should be a boy. If they were born a boy, maybe they should be a girl. Right? That's not normal. That's certainly not normal. That's insane. Right? But that's what they're trying to ram down your throat and say that's the new norm. We hold it's forbidden. For non-Jews also forbidden. 100%. So, there's nothing to talk about. The problem is, in the modern Orthodox community, they're much more welcoming. More than welcoming. Right? There's a problem. There's a definite issue. So someone would ask, okay, you're a rabbi of a synagogue, 2 people walk in, and they say, I'm Joe, this is Sam, and we're together. You can't say that's good. You can't say, you can't, a lot of things you can't do. All right. So, you can tell them, okay, I'm not going to condone it. I'm not going to say it's okay. You're not going to get any honors in this synagogue. If you want to go elsewhere, you can go elsewhere. But they have to know. They have to know 100% the buck stops here. No pun intended. Buck stops here. How can you embrace it? I've seen some Orthodox rabbis march. One of these marches, one of these, pride marches. How can they do that? Call themselves an Orthodox Jew? Don't know. I have no idea. Right? They have to answer for themselves. I'm not going to answer for them. I have enough difficulty answering for myself. But how can someone do that? It's one thing, to acknowledge it. It's another thing to march with it. That's a whole different thing. It's not just your, it's more than acknowledging. Here you're showing solidarity. I have to show solidarity with them. And what if a bunch of murderers would have a march? I should show solidarity with them. Pick out whatever transgression, thieves, adulterers, gamblers, addicts. So let's say they have all these marches. I should go march with them and say it's okay. That's insane. It's not only that. What are they doing? They're bragging. This is what I'm doing. They don't care what the Torah says. They don't care what the Bible says. Right? They want to ram that agenda down your throat. So you want to march with them as an Orthodox Jew? Contradiction in terms. Never do such a thing. Now, I would say you got to be a little more sensitive. Right? You definitely have to be a little more sensitive to them. If they would come to your synagogue, acknowledgments of what they're doing is okay? Never. And this is a huge problem in the secular world today. That could be discrimination. Totally discrimination. Right? That's nuts. What happened to religious freedom? No. You don't acknowledge, you get fired from your job. Right? So we've spoken about this. So what do you do in such a situation? It's hard. Someone in your office getting married. Same-sex marriage. Can't say congratulations. Can't give a gift. By putting a stumbling block in front of them. They say, what do you do? I know, you got to think of a way that's part. Sort of that, you're not acknowledging. You don't ram it down your throat. You have to explain. Listen, I hold it's wrong. I'm a Bible thumper. Bible says it's forbidden. That's what you want to do. It's your choice. But I can't say it's a good thing. Same thing. Can't say an intermarriage is a good thing. I've had that problem also. People want you to acknowledge. People want you to acknowledge, that they're married to a non-Jew. How can you acknowledge that? How can you say it's okay? You can't. Right? So what we said before, 99% of the world will say it's okay. You're one person say it's not okay. They go nuts because they know what the truth is. So how can you acknowledge that? Can't acknowledge it. Forbid it. So that's our stand. We all totally forbid it. Again, I'm not saying you go out and beat them up and this and that, but they want to do that. It's their choice. They want acceptance from you. They want you to say it's okay. That's a different thing. That's a totally different thing. Who said them allowed to do that? And if someone who's a thief, they want you to acknowledge they're a thief. Okay, so you're a thief. They want you to acknowledge. There's certain things. Okay, that's a different issue. But in such a case, you say, okay, that's your choice. You made a choice. Torah says not like that. Torah disagrees. Torah totally disagrees. So what can we do? And nothing to do. Can't get them a gift. Can't congratulate them. You know, you have to explain your position. Now, someone told me this and swore by it that if you do that, you get fired. I don't know. What happened to freedom of thought? You know, I can't say, well, okay, that's good for you. You know, who says I can't disagree? Who says I can't say it's not good? I get fired for that? That's insane. That's insanity. You know, they're doing something you don't believe in. I can't say I don't believe in it. So they have an agenda, okay. Right? But for someone, you know, someone who's an Orthodox Jew, and even quote unquote an Orthodox rabbi, how in the world can you march with it? You have to ask them. Right? I know what the answer is. You know, they're going to say we have to include them. You know, we have to embrace them. We can't ostracize them. We have to be all inclusive. So again, I'm not saying, you know, you be obnoxious. Say, listen, we don't accept it here. It's not accepted. You want to pray here? It's your choice. It's your choice. I'll never let you make a kiddush here. You'll never be called to the Torah here. You'll never be given any honors here. That's it. They want to stay. Okay, it's their choice. They say, what about trying to be makar for them? Draw them closer. Yeah, there is such an idea. You know, but you have to see. You know, I've heard people tell me, listen, I tried to be straight. I couldn't do it. If I did that, I'd kill myself. All right. There are people that can help these people. You know, that have been successful. So, you know, it's a desire. It can be helped. They don't want to get help. So what do you do? It's a hard thing. I'm saying if that was my synagogue, that's what I would do. I tell them straight up, you want to come? You know, I'm here to help whatever I can do. But, you know, what you're doing is wrong, totally wrong. And that's it. Right? No honors, no nothing. And that's the way it should be. They have to understand. You can say, well, that's not going to stop them from doing whatever they're doing. Okay. It's not going to stop them. I have to be all inclusive over here. Right? There's also an idea most people are not aware. I spoke about this a number of times in Pirkei Avos. And ethics for our fathers. Person can be guilty by association. Guilty by association. You know what that means? It means you're standing there, and there are people speaking Lashon Hara. You don't protest. You say, well, if I protest, they won't listen. You try and change the subject, it doesn't work, this and that. Person can be guilty just by hanging out with the wrong people. Give an example. There are people that, let's say they're people that, you shouldn't have anything to do with. Right? Bad influences, different things. So what happens? So you say, they're fun people to be around. I don't learn from their actions, whatever. But, what do? I hang out with them. You're going to say, I don't learn, I'm not learning anything bad from them. I'm not doing anything wrong over here. I'm not doing what they're doing. Okay, but you're hanging out with them. So when you hang out with them, you're guilty by association, even if you didn't do anything. Right? And some of the commentaries there in Ethics of Our Father says. So that's a pretty severe thing. Because you're telling me I'm not doing anything wrong, but I'm hanging out with these people. I'm not talking about where it's family. That sometimes you don't have a choice being around people, etc. Talking about people you have a choice who to be around. And you hang out with these people. And these people are bad. So you say, they're just fun to be with. I don't do what they do. I'm not interested in doing what they do. Okay? So even if you're not interested in doing what they do, there's an idea, the fact you're hanging out with them, you're guilty by association. Even if I didn't do anything, that's pretty severe. You tell me if you did something that had a bad influence and you started doing the same things that I hear. That makes sense. But to tell me if I don't do anything wrong and I'm just hanging out with them, why am I guilty by association? So the commentaries say that's exactly the point. These people are poison. Doesn't matter. You're not doing what they're doing. They're going to have an influence. So you're guilty by association. That's pretty severe. Yeah, question here. Somebody asks, is it obligatory for Ben Noach to get married? Yes. Or let's say better. There's an obligation for a non-Jew to have kids. Now, marriage is a different thing. If two non-Jews live together, and they're living together for the sake of marriage. So the Rambam says, then they're considered married. What we call in the States, by some states, common law marriage. So do they need something formal? No. That's considered marriage. If one walks away, that's considered divorce. But there's an obligation to have kids. There's an obligation. They should have kids. If they didn't have kids, okay. It's an obligation they didn't do. But they should have kids. Why should they have kids? Populate the world. Right? So, do you have to go through a whole formal thing for marriage? No. Living together is enough. So a person says, what if you can't find someone? That's a problem. I would agree that's a problem. Right? But there's an obligation. There's an obligation to be fruitful, multiply. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have 10 kids, or 8 kids or 5 kids. You can have a lot of, space in between, right? Certainly not like us. But I'm saying, yeah, there's an obligation. There's definitely an obligation to have kids. Because if you don't have kids, the world's not going to be populated. So, okay, I want to have kids, someone else has kids. But there's an obligation on each individual. So if that's true, do you really have to get married for that? Again, if you live together, that's considered being married. If you don't live together and it's out of wedlock, it's a different issue. That's a different issue. In other words, a person should have a child because they want to be married. Or they are married. We mentioned a case, child out of wedlock. Okay, it's not the best thing. Certainly not. Right? If it's someone they're allowed to be with, a non-Jew, not necessarily the end of the world. Right? But it's only better to be together. And what if a person doesn't? What if a person doesn't? Same thing. They didn't do it. It's a mitzvah they didn't do. If a Jew didn't get up today, or let's say didn't put on tefillin, phylacteries, whatever you want to call it. So what happens? They didn't do it. They don't get the mitzvah of doing it. They didn't eat matzah on Passover. They don't get the mitzvah of eating matzah on Passover. There are other ramifications. But I'm saying there are certain things. What if a person didn't do it? Okay? Right? There's an obligation to have children. And if you didn't do it, you didn't do it. Right? I had someone who was married. Basically, they were Noahides. His wife couldn't have kids. So he said, should I divorce her and get married and have kids? I said, would you divorce her otherwise? He said, no. So I said, then no. He says, but I'm not going to have kids through her. Okay? That mean he can go to someone else and have kids? No. Can't do that either. He's going to get divorced. He's going to do that. So I said, it's the same thing. If you didn't have kids, you didn't have kids. It's a mitzvah you didn't do. You'll say, but isn't it a pretty big thing? Yeah, it is. But if you didn't do it, right? If you didn't do it, then what? right? If you didn't do it, you didn't do it. What can you do? Nothing to do. Right? So it's obligatory for them to get married, it's more obligatory for them to have kids. Right? But it's better to have kids when you're married. If possible. Because it's only forbidden if they, in a forbidden relationship. So technically, if someone had a child, they weren't married. Right? Is it a forbidden relationship? Let's say it's not for a non-Jew. Let's say it's not. So if it's not a forbidden relationship, what's the problem? Maybe there's no problem. Right? A Jew would be a different issue. For a Jew would be a little bit different issue. Right? Because if a Jew is with somebody he's not allowed to be with, the child is called a mamzer. Now, normally translated as a bastard child, people think, oh, it's like a child out of wedlock. It doesn't necessarily mean that. And it doesn't mean both necessarily have to be married or not married. It's a forbidden relationship. Whatever that forbidden relationship is. Right? So if a Jew's in a forbidden relationship, that child has the status of a mamzer. The child's born. Who can that child marry? Either someone of the same union or convert. Why? Because this child's blemished. This came from a forbidden union. God allowed the woman to get pregnant. Okay. It's a forbidden union. So that child now is blemished. So you're going to say, but isn't a convert a full-fledged Jew? For the most part, yeah. But there are limitations. There are limitations. A convert, a woman cannot marry a Kohen. Also, a Jewish woman has been promiscuous, been with someone she can't be with, she's forbidden to be with. Also forbidden to a Kohen. We don't distinguish. Right? Either case. They have a certain status. It's okay, we're not living in Victorian England. We understand that. There's a certain status. But a Jew has an elevated status. Because we accepted the Torah of Mount Sinai. Will you tell me a convert also? Because they were also Mount Sinai. Their soul got messed up, however that works. Their soul got messed up, became non-Jewish. It's all Kabbalah how that works. Right? So now they're reconnecting. They become Jewish. Very good. But there are limitations. There are certain limitations. Right? A convert cannot necessarily have a position of power. Can a convert be a rabbinic court judge? Discussed that up north last year. Very, very interesting topic. Right? In the laws of judges. Because there's a technical issue there. I just mentioned this. There's a technical issue. There's a verse talks about being a king. About a king of the Jewish people. It says over there, it talks about putting a king over yourselves. It's talking about where a king has power. So we learn out from there, the verse says the king has to be me'echad. From your people, from your brethren. Convert can't say that. They converted, they're like a newborn child, you're right. But technically they weren't from your brethren, even though they are now. Right? So therefore, it's learned out that a convert cannot have a position of power. Now the question is, what does that mean? What exactly does that mean? Right? Could a convert be the head of the yeshiva? Yes. Could they give classes in the yeshiva or girls' school? Yes. A rabbi of a synagogue? That would be a little bit of a question. Some would say it's okay. My rabbi would say not, because what happens when that rabbi dies? Who becomes a rabbi after him? Usually their son, usually. And there's no inheritance by a non-Jew. Right? So there are technical issues. A woman can't marry Cohen. Now, a convert cannot marry Cohen. Right? Someone asks, is the son of a daughter of a mamzer? So the question is, what about that child? What about that child? Now, that child's also a mamzer. Unless the father, if the father would be with the slave, right? Let's say the father is a mamzer, and he would be with the slave. As I understand, could be things have changed. Saudi Arabia, I think, is the only place that allows slavery that's legal according to international law. Could be that's changed, but if that would be true, then a mamzer would marry, could be with a slave, and their children will not be mamzer. It's only that would work for the children. That would definitely work for the children, right? In other words, that would free the children. The person himself is stuck. He's totally stuck. There is a whole question also. Just throw this out there. If a mamzer marries, let's say, another mamzer, someone from the same union, not a convert, someone from the same union, and they have children, that's a problem. Why is that a problem? Because they're bringing more mamzerim to the world. That's a problem. It's one thing you say you're a mamzer, okay. But to bring in more mamzerim, that's a problem. Right? That's definitely a problem. Right? So, whatever, it's an issue. I'm not going to say not. Right? But, it'll be an issue. They can never marry a normal Jew. What we call a Jew from birth. JFB. A Jew from birth. Right? They can never marry such a person. They can only marry someone, for lack of a better term, that have a blemished soul. This soul is blemished. A normal Jew's soul is not blemished. It's elevated, but it could come from a bad union. What about there's a whole question? What if a person became religious? The parents weren't religious, and the parents never practiced family purity laws. That means that child is what we call a ben nid, that comes from a woman who didn't go to the mikveh, right? So for Moshe Feinstein, a blessed memory, Torah giant of the last generation in America, according to everybody, so we had a solution to take away this problem. And that is that, maybe the woman went to the ocean at some point. She probably went to the ocean at one point, right? The ocean can be considered a mikveh. But he had another way of taking away this problem with mamzerim, probably 99%. So you're going to say it's a forbidden union. Let's say they're married, right? Let's say they were married over here. So if it's not a forbidden union, let's say there were no kosher witnesses. In order to have an authentic, real Jewish wedding, you have to have proper witnesses. To witness the giving over the ring, and then being alone together and whatever, different things. So if a person got married, reformed, conservative, doesn't matter. The witnesses aren't kosher because they probably desecrate Shabbos. Rabbi probably isn't kosher, right? Meaning that, probably desecrate Shabbos in public. So you got a problem, all right? You got a problem over here, or not. It says from Moshe Feinstein, that person's not really married. That person not really married. So let's say they were with someone after that they're not supposed to be with. In this case, not a problem. They weren't really married. Right? It's not a Jewish marriage per se. They're living together like they're married. True. That's definitely true. But at the same time, we hold that even by this quote unquote type of marriage, it's not really that they're married. Right? So that probably takes down the majority of the cases. Right? So the case of mamzer probably doesn't come up all that often. Right? Now, the other case was, what if, they had a child, they didn't practice family purity laws. So a lot of ramifications for that child, a lot of bad character traits that can come from such a union. So I remember my Rebbe asked Chazon Ish, a blessed memory, of Avram Shai Karlitz, a blessed memory, also one of the Torah giants of the last generation, according to everybody. And there was a woman there was a woman that, parents weren't religious. And she was matched up with someone who, whatever, asked this question. He wanted my Rebbe to ask the question, the Chazon Ish. Should he consider marrying such a person? The Chazon Ish said, if she's very strong in keeping Torah mitzvahs, and she's going in the right path, then you got nothing to worry about. So the Chazon Ish said that's not a problem. Not a problem. So there are some people, just throw this out there as well. There are some people, when they're looking for a match for their kids, they want at least 3 generations, of families, of their family that kept family purity laws. Right? It means going to their great-great-grandparents. Now, the reality is, the Chazon Ish said that, if a child born in such a union, they're going in the right path, that doesn't matter. They may think it matters. It doesn't matter at all. Right? There are some people who say this. I heard, other great rabbis say like this also. It means absolutely zero. Zero. Some people will swear by it. And they say it's my pedigree and it's this and it's that. Zero. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything over here. They can say what they want. Practically speaking, it doesn't mean anything. Total doesn't mean anything. Yeah. Someone asks, how does one not become a robot when doing mitzvahs you don't feel any joy? Well, that's the obligation, right? Don't we say every day, you do as Hashem b'simcha, right? We say, got to serve God with great joy. So, you're right. Some days it's harder. Some days we just feel, like we're robots, etc. And that's akin to spiritual death. And that is something very hard, very hard to fight against. But at the same time, we always have to look at the bigger picture, right? This is the only way, one of the ways. We can sing and dance a little bit more, but, I think this is one of the ways. So we always say, write down 10, 20 things you're thankful for. And when you're down, look at them. Before you rip it up and, before you burn it. There are a million things to be thankful for. A million things. If you go through the prayers and just see what they say. Simple explanation what they say. You're thanking God for the stars. You're thanking Him for rain. Even for snow. You're thanking Him for all kinds of things, right? We should be thankful every single day for everything we have. Should never take anything for granted, but we do. So a person has to put in their psyche every day. I was just reading something by Victor Miller, Rabbi Victor Miller, blessed memory. And you're saying every day you should say, 1,000 times, God, I want to thank you for this ice cream. I want to thank you for this food. I want to thank you, for the ability to learn Torah. I want to thank you for the air. I want to thank you for the rain. Look what the rain does. Right? If we think in those terms on a daily basis, how can we ever be the same? Impossible to be the same. What's the problem? We take things for granted. Right? Tell you a story happened to me yesterday. Can't take anything for granted. I get up early, right? Get up early, pretty much every day, but whatever, 9 times a week I get up early to exercise. So I get up early yesterday, and whatever, there's an issue with the lock, my bathroom. So now it got a little bit worse. So anyway, whatever, I jiggled at this, that. The lock inside was a little bit loose. Okay, so that should have been a hint not to touch it, and just leave it. But no, I said, okay, let me push it and let me see if I can close the door. Right? Did this, did that, wiggle it, great, got it closed. Perfect. Go to the bathroom, come out, door is jammed. The lock inside is jammed. So I had to wake up my wife. That I'm stuck in here. And whatever, it took a while in order to wedge the lock so we could push it open and break the door, thank God. Took like 50 minutes, back and forth, try this, try that, trying to get something between the door, between the lock, and the wall so you can push the lock in. Problem was the thing was jammed, totally jammed shut. So that didn't work. So, okay, tried this, whatever. We tried a bunch of different things. So what was the one thing I couldn't do? Couldn't pray. Right? I was thinking, I was thinking maybe I should pray over here. God should take me out of the situation. Just, make me open the door because, I have to get to pray. Things on Monday and Wednesday have to work like clockwork. I have to get out on time. I have to catch this bus, to catch another bus, to go up north. You miss one, it's like throw the whole thing off. So anyway, time is ticking, and I know I have another 10, 15 minutes to get to synagogue on time. So whatever, I'm looking at my phone, looking at the time is ticking. So I had, 15 minutes before service is going to start, finally get the door open. Finally got the door open. But I couldn't pray there. I couldn't even pray my own salvation, stuck in the bathroom. Right? So you're not allowed to pray in the bathroom. Not allowed to think Torah in the bathroom. So this just goes to show. We're totally not in control. Now I get upstairs after 120 years. God can say, I didn't do that. You did it. You saw the thing was loose. So if you saw it was loose, why'd you try to jam it in? Okay, it's a good question. I don't have an answer. Right? But what happened after that? Okay, so I got dressed quickly. I get to synagogue, and and I'm thinking on the way, I don't know why I had to go through this. I don't know what the point is, but I take food with me, so I had to prepare that. Time after that is ticking. So I said, okay, I don't know what you want from this day. This is how the day started. They did not start on the right track. I did not start on the right track. But it's a learning experience. So I got to synagogue. I definitely prayed differently than I normally did. I definitely thanked them for getting me out. So I could, so at least I had a chance to make my schedule and to make everything work. So I definitely thanked them for that. Right. So now what happened? So I get home, got to make a few sandwiches, put things together. Anyway, I get out, and the bus I wanted to take certainly, already left. Next bus is coming in 10 minutes. I'm like, 10 minutes? Comes in 10 minutes, going to throw everything off. So I take another bus. I go all the way up to the entrance of the city because there are other buses coming from a different place. I said, okay, let's see what's going to be. Let's see what's going to be. So I said, I kept saying the same thing. God, you're the one in charge. You want me to make it on time? It's now 7:30. The bus I have to catch at Central Bus Station is 8:45. Got an hour and 15 minutes. You'll say plenty of time. No, why not? Because there's a lot of traffic. A lot of traffic going in. So it could take at least an hour to get in, at least. It'll take me another 7-8 minutes to walk. These buses leave on the dot. On the dot. So I said, okay. I could have made it, 10 minutes late. 2 minutes late, I would have missed the bus. Now, what happens? I take the 7:30 bus thinking, all right, let's see. It's a lot of traffic. I said, okay, whatever, I'm not in control. All of a sudden, traffic started to move. Next thing I know, I'm on this main road. Next exit. What time do I get to the stop I need to get to? 8:15. Like the normal time, I would have got there anyway. 8:15, 8:20. So it takes me 7 minutes to get there. I'm standing in front of the place, whatever, the bus stop I need to get to. 8:22. 8:23. Now, 45 minutes, that's like a record. Should have taken at least an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 10 minutes, something like that, depending on traffic. So I gave a wink to heaven. I said, okay, I guess you can do anything. Traffic move. Now, why did I have to go through what I did? I can't tell you. There's one thing for sure. We're not in control of anything. Nothing. Right? Everything we have is a gift. No matter how hard it is, it's still a gift. You're not in the street. You're not freezing cold. You have food, right? Maybe more, maybe less, right? You have some money, sometimes more, sometimes less. There are a million things. But you know what? At the end of the day, I can blame myself for what happened yesterday. I should have been more careful. If I knew there's a problem with the lock, why mess with it? Good point. Very good point. Should have messed with it. Okay. So what happened? So now there's another thing here. So I get up early, either give a class or 4 times the work to exercise. So I was up an hour and 10 minutes before I had to go. An hour and 20 minutes before I had to get to synagogue. Right, usually I'll say an hour and 15 minutes. That's when I usually leave, 10 minutes before. So an hour and 15 minutes. If I would have got up late and I only had 20 minutes, I never would have made it. Unless God would have made a miracle and let me open the door first, within that amount of time. But I had all that time. So I thought back on it, that's unbelievable divine providence. Because if I wouldn't have got up and I would have got up later, let's say I was too tired, right? Sometimes, I sleep another 40 minutes, right? It happens, not that often, but let's say. So instead of getting up at 4:45, I was up at 5:20, right? But I'm in the bathroom, 5:20, 5:25. Let's say it's 5:30. So now it's 5:30. I got 40 minutes. I'm jammed in this door is jammed. It took almost an hour to get out. I wouldn't, it would have thrown off everything. They say, well, consistency is good over here. You got up on time, you had a whole hour. Now, it doesn't mean it would have happened in an hour, but you have to look at it in hindsight. So I don't have any idea. It could be I was just stupid. That could be the answer. And I fiddled with this thing and I shouldn't have done it. Shouldn't have messed with the log. Okay? But at the end of the day, that's what happened. But when I look back on it, I said, it's tremendous divine providence here. Because if I would have got up late, would have thrown everything off. And again, in these 2 days, like tomorrow also. Tomorrow's a little bit easier because you don't have to read the Torah. So, I have more time, but things, I have a set schedule, how it works. And usually the schedule works. Usually it works like clockwork. Usually. If any little thing gets thrown off, it messes everything up. Okay. Right? So when I got to synagogue, I said, a few extra prayers thanking him for getting me out. Now, also could have been worse. I would have had to break the door. Right? Thank God I didn't have to break the door. Door is definitely still salvageable. So now it's just, I have to get a locksmith to fix the lock. Okay. Right? So you say you're out of money for that. Fine. Could have been worse. Definitely could have been worse. It's all outlook. Was it aggravation? Yeah, it was aggravation. But you know what? God's the one in charge. So I take something like that and and I had special prayers. I said, I thanked him for getting me out and setting me on the schedule. And then when I didn't think I was, the bus, taking a later bus, and I think, I'm not going to make this other bus, it's going to throw everything out. I was like, okay, I've learned the easy way and the hard way. God, you're the one in charge. You're 100% the one in charge. It's all on you. You want me to get there on time? You're going to do it. There are times, let's say on the way back, coming from up north. So I have a certain bus I try and make. And if I don't make it, I have to take another bus like an hour later, hour and 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later. There are times I missed it by like 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I'm stuck in the bus station for an hour. Right? Okay. It's not the same as if I miss it in the morning. If I miss it in the morning, it throws everything off. So that's okay. Not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. It's all outlook. It's all outlook over here. Right? So, in that sense, I had enough aggravation to start the day. I said, oh, great. This is the way the day is going to be. This is the way the day is going to start. That is not a good way to start the day. First of all, you're half asleep. You're working on, you want to work on character traits and whatever. God says, great. Anger, aggravation. I'm going to put it all here. Right. So again, I could say on myself, on this thing, it's probably all my fault. Right? It's probably my fault. God said, I didn't do anything here. You jammed it. What do you want from me? Right? So you look at something like that, you say, well, why do I have to go through it? Why this? Why that? But at the end of the day, if a person lives with God in your life every second of the day, right? I'm going to ask the $1.5 million, $2 million question. if everything, okay, everything, is with God's will. He wills it, he doesn't will it, this, that, the other thing. You live with God every second. When you live with God every second, so I'll ask the question, how could you say I don't feel any joy here? It may be hard, right? I'll say like this, when you feel you're doing the mitzvahs robotically, think about being a pagan. Think about living a life that has no meaning. Even for that, you're just saying the words, okay, can have an effect on the inside. Think about where you've been. Think about what you've done, good or bad, right? Right now, I would say where a person's holding, this should be the worst thing. It's something you have to work on, I agree. But if you're thankful for everything that God does, and that's your mentality when you go to pray, read what the words say. Read what the prophets say when you pray. You're thanking him for this. You're thanking him for that. You wouldn't be anywhere. Right? The paragraph before the Shema, what do we say? God is Machadesh B'chol Yom Tamid. God renews creation every day. And if he wouldn't, we'd all be dead. Think about it. Now most places it's very cold. Right here in Israel, it's starting to get a little bit of winter, but it's still not so cold. Imagine, I went to synagogue this morning, pretty windy. Etc. Imagine if we were a little bit closer to the sun. Or a little bit further away from the sun. Let's say better. Let's say we'd be a little bit further away from the sun. That's not normal winter. That's impossible to live. That's like minus 50 billion degrees Celsius. You die. There's no way you could live. God renews creation every day. We're a new creation every day. How can I take that for granted? I can take that for granted. I'll give a more crude example. Right? Think about it like this. Imagine if a person was constipated. It means you can't go to the bathroom. And you got stuff that needs to come out. Painful. Anyone that ever been constipated, it's painful. Extremely painful. Imagine when the plumbing finally works. And it's like, got all this stuff out of your system. You feel so much better. How can you take that blessing of coming out of the bathroom for granted? Someone who has difficulty going and this and that, or is constipated, when you can go, I had someone tell me, a secular Jew told me this. He didn't make a blessing, but he told me he was in a very bad accident. Whatever, it's kind of a tragic story. He paid the last payment for his house on his mortgage. The car hit him, ran him over. Crossing the street, whatever it was, ran him over. He survived. But he said, he was in a lot of pain for a long time. Went to visit him in the hospital. My father, a member of my parents' synagogue, right? He's no longer in this world, but he's a member of my parents' synagogue. And one of the things he said, and again, this is by a secular Jew, he said, I was so thankful I was able to go to the bathroom. That's like, okay, some people, if a person's been constipated for a number of days, you're in a lot of pain. So you're not going to say, you're not going to say, thank God, and God did it. Okay. Right? Person acknowledged when the plumbing works, you're thankful. When the plumbing doesn't work, you're in a lot of pain. When a person's sick, you're in a lot of pain, or you can't move, or whatever. Right? So when you read the prayers, think about what they say, just a little bit, of what they say. So much to be thankful for. So I would say, how could a person ever do things by rote? What's the answer? We have an evil inclination. We get beaten down in life. It's very easy. Very easy to get sucked in. That's true. But I'm saying if you look at the world in a different way, like Victor Miller, right? Then then we wouldn't say that. We wouldn't say we're looking at things that that we're just robots. We're definitely not robots. You're saying, thank God I'm not blind. Thank God, you make those morning blessings. A lot of things to be thankful for. We take a lot of things for granted, a lot of things that, I'll give another example. There was, during COVID, there was a problem. There was a problem here with eggs. There was before Passover, there was a boat supposed to come from Spain, and whatever the case was, the boat didn't come. There's a shortage of eggs. Now, I mentioned this before. Most people know, or if you don't know, you'll know now. A lot of food that you make on Passover, one of the main ingredients is eggs. Can't make things on Passover without eggs. I had a friend of mine the last day of the holiday had one egg. They had one egg. They had to figure out what they're going to make with one egg. In any case, I'm waiting, a certain place said they're going to be eggs, waiting in line. And there was somebody there, you've been in Israel a number of years, but grew up in the former Soviet Union. Anyway, we're waiting there. He's like, this is nothing. I remember waiting in lines, for hours to get bread. There's no guarantee you're going to get bread either. He's like, come on, this is nothing. The guy was making fun of everyone, complaining, being out there for like 10 minutes. It wasn't like the weather was bad either, right? Just complaining. I had to sit in line, wait for eggs, or they had to wait. It wasn't for eggs. They only allowed a certain amount of people in. So they had to wait for people to come out in order that they would allow more people to come in. So people were complaining. This whole line to go shop is like nuts. You need stuff. You have to wait. So the guy said, this is nothing. He said, I'm used to waiting in long lines, freezing weather, this, that, just to get bread. And that wasn't even a guarantee we get bread. He promised, but there's no guarantee. So, put things in perspective. Most people are like, oh, very interesting. But they were still annoyed. They had to sit there and wait to get in. But this person's already been through it many more times. So here you walk into a store. You don't have to wait. What do you have to wait for? You just walk in, get what you need to get, and that's it. There's so many people and social distancing and masks and this and that. It was crazy. It's a crazy time. But if you've already been through it, in a much bigger way, this is nothing. But it's all in perspective. Someone asks, isn't there saying man plans, God laughs? Yeah, it's a Yiddish expression. 100%. Someone asks, jury duty allowed? Sometimes you don't have a choice, can't get out of it. Is it allowed? For the most part, yeah. I mean, it's better if you can get out of it, but it's it is it is allowed. But it's once a person gets selected, it's hard to usually it's hard to get out of, right? But as far as I understand, it should be all right, to do. What are the issues? What would the issues be? That should be. There is an issue, going to civil court, right? There is an issue between two Jews that should go to Beis Din, right? 100%. They should go to rabbinical court. If two Jews have a disagreement, they for sure should go to rabbinical court, should not go to a secular court. That's a Torah prohibition. And that's a very severe, that's a pretty severe prohibition. So the issue is that maybe justice is going to be perverted, right? That could be. That definitely could be. So how could you sit? How could you sit? In a jury per se, and justice doesn't go according to Torah, right? That definitely could be. That definitely could be an issue. Certainly if there's life and death, you shouldn't sit there, no question. there's also a problem, let's say informing on Jews, judging Jews, helping Gentiles against Jews, right? So it seems like, the system should be, it should be forbidden. It should be, I would think, that if it's going to pervert justice, then the question is, can you get out of it? Right? Is there, it'd be best if there's any way, if you can get out of it. Definitely if both parties are Jewish, that's an issue, right? That for sure. That's definitely for sure. But a lot of places don't have exemptions, also. But if it's Jews against Jews, or certainly, if it be like a case of, what's it called? Capital punishment maybe, or something like that. That'd be a different issue, right? That would definitely be, that would definitely be another, that would be another issue. But yeah, going to a secular court, for two Jews, definitely finished. And the perversion of justice as well. That would definitely be an issue. There wouldn't be any difference. That wouldn't be any different if it was an Israeli court either, right? Israeli secular court, same thing. That would definitely be the same thing. So some say it's forbidden, right? Because if there are two Jews there, there's a Jewish litigant there, right? That some say it's a problem because it's considered glorifying a non-Torah legal system. That could be, right? That could also be. Others say no. Others say that since non-Jews have to establish a legal system, so that's not a problem, right? That's not necessarily a problem. Interesting. Some hold that even if it's murder, let's say a Jew gets, murdered someone, can another Jew, be part of it and convict them? Some say you're allowed to, if there's solid evidence, to do it. Right? There seems to be a difference of opinion over here. I would say, in some places, no way to get out of it. So if there's no way to get out of it, then you're kind of stuck. Then I would say you're kind of stuck. But yeah, it is. I would say it's more of a problem because what you're doing is, if there's a Jew, there's no Jew, and there are two non-Jews, doesn't matter if the Jew's secular or not, right? If the two non-Jews, I'd say, it's less of an issue. It'd be less of an issue. But, certainly if there's a Jew, I think everyone would agree. Most would agree that it's a problem. Most would agree it's a problem. But I just saw someone holds out that way. Someone says, even if he's convicted of murder and there's enough evidence, to convict, then you could convict them, even if it's a Jew, right? I don't know. I have to see what other people hold. I see there are two sides. I would think it's better not to. Definitely better not to. But, a lot of places, there are no religious exemptions. You can't get out of it. So, maybe it's better to, do something where you would, you'd show some sort of bias or something like that, where that would get you out of it also. Whatever, if you can get out of it, get out of it. If you can't get out of it, then, you may not have a choice. Someone asked, should we accept blessings from Muslims or Christians? If a Christian says, well, God, the Holy Ghost, the Son, and everyone should bless you, you can say, well, it's a different issue. If it, even if a Christian or Muslim saying, God should bless you, or, whatever, then not necessarily an issue. But if a Christian's going to say in the name of JC this and that, say no, I'm not interested in that. That would be something else, right? By Muslim, they believe in the same God, right? We hold they believe in the same God, so that wouldn't be, that wouldn't be an issue. But someone would say, why would you want a blessing from them anyway? But what if they gave you one anyway? They wanted to give you one, so it wouldn't necessarily be a problem. I wouldn't necessarily see it's a problem unless, it's really like they're saying the name of a pagan or, JC or whatever the case is. Someone asked, can the children of two Orthodox converts marry a Cohen? Back to the case of Mamzer. So the question is, both parents are converts. So a Kohen, one second. So a Kohen is allowed to marry the daughter of a convert woman if the woman alone is a convert. But he can't marry the child of a union in which both mother and father are converts. Only one. If she's the only convert, then it seems that he can. If both are converts, then not. That's the way it sounds. Yeah, that's the way it sounds over here. That if the mother is a convert, then the daughter's allowed to marry. The daughter's allowed to marry a Kohen. If seems that both parents are converts, then that's not the case. Then that would be forbidden. Yeah, one second. So if one of the parents are converts and the other is Jewish from birth, not born from two parents who are converts, then it'll be okay. But if the marriage, let's say they got married anyway. Let's say the marriage took place. They don't have to get divorced. But really, if both are converts, then it seems that that's the case. Right? It seems that's the case that it would be forbidden. Right? What's the reason over here? Whatever. It seems like a different opinion in the Talmud over here. That the Kohanim from the times of the destruction of the temple accepted and followed the ruling of the stringent opinion when we said it was forbidden. Yeah, so the Code of Jewish Law says, you're not allowed to, but if they already did it, then that's a different issue. That's a different issue. So it would be forbidden. Any other questions? If a Kohen has a son with a non-Jew, and he later converts as exempted to do temple duties. He's not exempted, he's forbidden. He's not a Kohen. Kohen who has a child with a non-Jew or someone he's not allowed to be with, that child is called a halal. A halal means it's like a blemished Kohen, right? Is a blemished Kohen and wouldn't be allowed to serve. In this case, this child's not even Jewish, right? In other words, Kohen has a child with a non-Jew. The child's not Jewish, so he's certainly not a Kohen. Definitely not a Kohen. The other case was if a Kohen, let's say, married a convert. Sorry, let's say divorce. Cohen is not allowed to marry a divorce. Now, if that's the case, the child is Jewish, but he can't serve. Right? He will never be able to serve in the temple. If a Kohen married a non-Jew, the child's not Jewish, so all the more so he's not going to be able to serve because he's not a Kohen, not a Kohen at all. Right? So he's not just exempt, he's not a Kohen. He's not even a, he's not even a blemish Kohen. He's nothing. No, he's a non-Jew. Shouldn't say nothing, he's a non-Jew. Right? If we consider a non-Jew such a case. Someone asks, what's the Jewish view on karma? We don't believe in karma, right? Everything's divine providence. We don't believe on such a thing. I mentioned to someone, a few days ago, about this idea that, everything's divine providence. If everything's divine providence, then we don't believe in deja vu, right? Regardless of those Nightmare on Elm Street movies, right? We don't believe in deja vu. Not only that, our soul will never remember what it went through, when it comes into this world. Even though there are people say there's regression, you can put a person under deep hypnosis and it can explain, the person can explain a past life. I asked one of my rabbis, very much steeped in Kabbalah, he said no such thing. So he doesn't know how that works. According to Kabbalah, the soul should never know, anything from past life while it's in this world. Now, you can tell me, maybe if it's unconscious, maybe it's not considered in this world, right? Maybe it's not living in this world. Could be. That might be different. But he said, according to Kabbalah, that should never happen, right? So we don't hold by it in general. We definitely don't hold by it in general. So, things happen, and we may think, oh, I've been here before and this and that, like I said, as far as I understand, the soul will never remember, anything in this world. In other words, even the soul, we say that when a person sleeps, the soul goes up and it goes to all these different worlds and this and that, whatever. When the soul comes back to the body, you don't remember anything. We don't remember anything. Where it's been, what happened, zero. Doesn't matter what we dreamed about or whatever. That's not comparable, right? So the question about regression, how that works, it should be contradictory to Kabbalah, at least from what I understood, right? From what I understood, someone very much steeped in Kabbalah, that should never happen. How does that work? And people will say that, they explain past lives. I don't know. But karma itself, everything's divine providence. Nothing happens for no reason. So we don't, we don't believe we saw something, we heard something, this and that from something in the past. That we don't know. Yeah, any other questions? Boy, guys got me on my toes today. I got stuck in the bathroom yesterday. Yeah, any other questions? All right, I'm gonna stop here. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Back on the normal times here. Anyone has any questions? Feel free. Shoot me an email at rabbichaimkoffman@gmail.com or RBBIChaimCoffman@gmail.com. Find me on Facebook at Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism or Michael Chaim Kaufman. Otherwise, I'm gonna sign up. Wishing everyone a good beginning of the day, end of the day.